Good email, Michael Brown from Norfolk, England.
Damn right.
Moving on, this is from Emperor G.
Wow.
This one's gonna be great.
Who says, salutations and good morrow to thee from England.
A lot of English emails today.
Yeah.
Is all that Chucky Egg talk? I'm sorry.
After having viewed videos on your YouTube channel regarding the latest developments in Nintendo, I wanted to share some of my ideas of what might have been. Ever since the release of the Wii U, I've had the theory that Nintendo would have been better off teaming up with Apple. I must say I'm not a big fan of Nintendo or Apple. However, I believe Apple would have helped Nintendo to better address the goals of the Wii U, i.e. tablet games, screen sharing, Miiverse infrastructure, etc. Also, an install base of every iPhone and Apple device would have greatly aided the accessibility and proliferation of Nintendo's IP. In my eyes, each partner would play to each other's strengths and aims. Would you agree, or am I just talking nonsense?
So Apple and Nintendo are similar companies in some ways already. These are both companies that kind of provide alternate universe takes on other established technologies.
Yeah, they're vertically integrated with hardware and software, which is unusual.
Yep, and they exist, you know, the PC market is still much larger than the Macintosh market. Now the iPhone market has been dominant for a long time, but is gradually losing share to more open platforms again. So these are sort of neat, nifty, upper echelon kind of, we talked about the Blue Ocean strategy last time, you know, Clearwater takes on reaching into emerging markets and reaching users of electronic devices or software that might not otherwise be drawn to that medium. Nintendo does the same thing. That's their whole strategy over the last few years. So they have some similarities. I'm not crazy about the idea of the two of those together because I think weird plus weird sometimes equals freaky. I like Apple products. I like Nintendo products.
That sounds kind of hot.
Some good math.
I mean, I carry an iPhone. I use a Macintosh computer.
And you carry a 3DS.
And I carry a 3DS. Yeah, around where I go. And so I don't. But I don't think I want these things that I like merged together because that many odd ideas might just suddenly start to move beyond functional and into some wacky world of zaniness that I don't want to play with. I don't want to have Toontown on my phone, and I'm afraid that's what might happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It's Toontown.
Toontown is where Eddie Valiant went with Roger Rabbit.
Oh,
and it's yeah.
Like, it's a fun hypothetical to kind of think about, but the reality, like the real world scenario, is that I don't think that that's super plausible. You know, Japanese gaming giant, 100 years worth of history ingrained in, Japanese corporate culture.
I don't see any scenario in which their entire identity isn't completely inhaled by Apple's, which is what has happened with almost any company that has merged with Apple in some capacity.
I think what's more likely would be Disney. Now, I've brought that up before. You know,
Nintendo and Disney.
Well, yeah, Disney choosing to buy
just
out
buying
Nintendo.
Because they have so many. Nintendo loves to buy up IPs, and Nintendo has so many.
I mean, it's a great fit. Like, there's the synergy, which I hate that word, but it's super true, right? Like, everything that Disney's good at could be really, really good for all of Nintendo's big properties.
Magic Kingdom Hearts in that world.
Yeah,
aside from like mashups in games, like how so? I don't see how Disney has any experience in
television
hardware
shows,
or software.
You
mean in terms of like branching out their IP?
Like, what could they do? Disney Infinity, all their toys. So Disney is toys. Real world theme park experiences and media experiences.
Because I don't see how they would help their game division in any.
Well,
capacity.
so Nintendo helps Disney's game division, right? So then you give Nintendo the rights to do stuff with Disney characters and Marvel characters and Star Wars characters, and it just becomes. Like, to me, that's if a Western company were to pick up Nintendo, I think they'd be a better fit than Apple.
I think that like they seem buried and swamped in enough responsibility alone to keep their own IPs keep afloat, and they're doing a good job of it. They're obviously they're making some of the best games they've ever made. They're still continually. And we talked about this in the show about how they were one of the highest rated developers like year after year. But I worry about them losing their identity, and about them sort of losing the magic that is what they are. Like, it's when we start to see things like Hyrule Warriors, like, I feel like there's only so many games like that can start to happen, or these crossover games that, like, I feel like it just dilutes a lot of properties. Like, putting Mario and Mickey together is a great.
Oh, so exciting!
It's exciting, but it's exciting for a day. In terms of, like, you can make one game out of that's decent, but I don't know if you can build the legacy out of that.
Did you not play Mario versus Sonic at the Olympics? I mean, wasn't that what you'd wanted your whole life?
No, not at all.
Those two characters side by side.
Well, like, it's that golden goose thing, right? Like, I mean, you can, like, kill the goose and try to get how many eggs are in there right there, or you can get one every day for the rest of your life. And I just sort of feel like it's this whole mobile thing too. It sort of feels like it's cashing in on something at the moment, and they'll get their money in the immediate future. But I think in the terms of like the long form plan here, I think they're going to dilute their properties a lot, and I think that like they need to sort of maintain a focus on that. I think that like doubling down on mobile and I think merging with a bunch of other companies, I don't know if it's the best plan for them. Like I honestly don't.
I'd want to look into how common it is for Western companies to buy Japanese companies.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a matter of pride.
Totally. I was going to bring that up next, actually. It's totally that as well.
I think it's extremely unlikely.
But if any company from the West could pull it off, it would be Disney, which is huge in Japan. The value Disney IPs are beloved in that country. You want to have fun at Disney. You know, go see Disneyland or Disney Sea there in Tokyo, and the enthusiasm that surrounds those properties there. That merger from a nationalistic perspective would be easier for the Japanese to swallow than most Western takeovers would be.
I just feel like it's a lot like Kintako huts. You know?
I'm sorry, what?
There are those restaurants, they're called Kintako huts. They're Kentucky Fried Chickens, they're Taco Bells, and they're Pizza Huts, and they're all in one place.
Thank you for clarifying that. I thought that was something in Majora's Mask I hadn't found.
It totally
yet.
sounds like
okay,
something.
Yeah, all right.
But they're sort of like these jack of all trades, masters of none, where like everything is under one roof, but they're not really doing anything very well, you know? And I don't know if that's what I want. Like, I don't know if I want Anakin Skywalker in my Mario games, or I don't know if I want, like, Donald Duck to show up in Pokemon.
I know I don't want Anakin Skywalker in my Mario games.
Yeah, but that's a little bit unfair, because, like, Mario and Link don't show up in Pokemon now. Like, you still presumably have some smart people making decisions about, you know, where these lines of intersection are and aren't.
I mean, they fight in Smash Brothers, right?
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? No one really, like, you like that?
Yeah, and Mario Kart, they can race against each other.
To an extent, I mean, it took 15 years to make the leap of letting Link drive a cart in Mario Kart, right? And still, when that happened, we were just like, wait, he's got a motorcycle horse? What does this mean?
But I do think it's possible without diluting the properties to take the opposite end of it. Now, just like you, I love Nintendo, and I think their identity is what makes them work. It also makes them very frustrating on occasion. And right now, it's got them in a little bit of trouble, and they're looking for a good way out. I don't think that collaboration on cell phone games necessarily dilutes. I think that the strategy they presented is designed to reassure us into thinking that it won't dilute, that pride remains, that care remains. And likewise, in a Disney takeover, it would largely depend on whether Disney saw them as something to be pillaged and plundered, or if they actually wanted to draw on the strengths of the company, which are this crazy, ultra-isolated, ridiculous Kyoto creative toy-making, game fun-producing factory.
But they're also one of the most historically isolated companies. Like, I mean, they have not worked well with third parties in over a decade.
Really, ever?
I mean, so...
Well, that's not true.
Well,
they were combative with them all the way back from the NES. They fought with third parties.
Yeah, but at least still they had an incredible third-party lineup.
Sure.
The NES.
But that changed. The moment the third parties had someplace else to go, though, that quickly changed.
Yeah. I mean, I would say since the N64, they've been struggling.
Yeah,
and you know
for third-party support, yes.
Yeah. So if they couldn't, I mean, if you want to make a deal with Disney on a 1 or 5 game basis or something like that, pick up the phone right now and do it. Like someone at Nintendo should do that, but they're incapable of doing that because they are insular and they're focused on their own IPs. Like I think there's a possibility for them to branch out right now, but if they can't do it with the 3DS and they can't do it with the Wii U, and they couldn't do it with the Wii, the GameCube, or the N64, or the Game Boy Advance, or whatever. I mean.
And again, it wasn't a matter of couldn't; it was a matter of weren't willing to.
Yeah.
They had their chance several times over.
Sony's on the phone, Microsoft's on the phone. They're calling companies up. They're making things happen. Nintendo hasn't done that.
On the other hand, despite that, just to come out on the side of that lunacy, because of that, they do manage to produce something that's utterly theirs, and 95% of the time, what's utterly theirs is so much fun.
It's really good. It's this amazing thing that they can pull off. That they don't communicate with anyone, but when they speak, it's like it's flawless. You know, I want to hear what they're saying.
They tell me what I want better than anybody else in the world does.
Good food for thought. Emperor G.